Very good. Our next presenter is Mr. Paul Reid, a senior strategist for TITUS. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank NATO for inviting me back for a second year to speak. I really enjoyed my chance to speak to everyone last year, and I think that we learned a lot last year, and maybe we can build upon a bit of that this year. So what does TITUS do? Well, we enable organizations to identify, protect, and confidentially share their information. And we do that based upon a platform of information classification, data awareness, and user-driven classification, but bring rich policies into that as well. So as you can see, we have a large number of customers, and we're fortunate to count NATO among them. This week, we heard a lot about innovation and how we need to bring in that innovation to help us achieve the goals that have been set in front of us and to achieve that level of security that's been put in front of us for 2020. But what I wanted to do, though, is I wanted to start off with some thank yous. I wanted to thank you in the audience for, first of all, for serving your nation, but also for serving a world in crisis, as we heard earlier. But also we have to thank you for all those great military innovations that we in the commercial sector and at home take for granted. What do I mean by that? You guys invented freeze drying, right? You came up with a way to keep plasma safe and perishable medicine safe so that they could get to the front lines and heal soldiers. When the commercial world got a hold of freeze drying, what did we do with it? We made ice cream. Not very good ice cream either. What else did you give us? Duct tape. So the story behind duct tape is this Navy mom worked in an ammo plant in Dixon, Illinois, packing ammo. And what she discovered when she packed those ammo boxes was that it could take a fair amount of time for the soldier under fire to open up that box and get his ammo out. And that gave the adversary an advantage. So what she came up with was the idea of a cloth-based tape that could be used to seal those boxes and still keep dust and water out, but allow the soldiers to get access to their ammo even quicker. Thus, duct tape is being used to help secure the ammunition of our fighters. But when we got duct tape, what did we do with it? Well, we fixed moon buggies with it. That was a pretty good use. But we also fixed rust buggies as well. There doesn't seem to be anything this duct tape can't do. All right, we haven't done so good so far with what you've given us. Let's check the next one. Maps and GPS. Who as a kid did not want a map that big? Look at that thing. He's standing in the country he's going to invade. He has a very intimidating looking pointer. He's pushing around his scale models, and he's a man in charge. He's ready to take control. But even back then, there's always that one guy who wants to know what this is really about and how he's going to make this work. He can't figure out how he's going to carry that map into battle. It may look great there, but it's not coming with him to the battle. But you know what? I think we got something right this time. We gave you back geographic information systems. Okay, so there's something we got right. There's a military innovation we took and gave back. Well, what about GPS? Well, we got GPS from the military when it was used to guide soldiers across arid deserts and sandstorms to defeat a tyrant. We use it to go buy milk. And quite often accompanied by humorous cartoon characters. Many people here probably know who that guy is. He's not exactly the sharpest stick, but he does know a few things. I think he knows that one of the greatest innovations that we could say the military has given us.
Ever heard of a little thing called the internet?
The internet. What started out as an egalitarian effort to interconnect research areas so that the Department of National Defense could conduct research faster and achieve innovation even quicker. What did we do with it? We gave you a new meaning for spam. We gave you opportunities every week to get rich from princes who wanted to give away their money. We learned a new dance. That's still burned in my eyes. And of course, we found out that felines don't always have fun. But innovation goes both ways. So we saw the military innovation given back to the commercial sector, but what can the military take back from us to help you achieve your goals? We created robots to help us with the mundane. You use them to protect lives. We have real-time translation so we can order off of foreign language menus and sound smart. You use it to communicate with the citizens of an embattled country. We have simulators, right? How many people try to fly this thing? I know I did. We spent hours on fun and frivolity. But you took it and used it to train the next generation of pilots. So what does this have to do with what innovation we're talking about? To me, this is probably one of the best examples of military and commercial coming together. The name alone is impressive. What's even more impressive is how this thing actually operates.
Basically, we can operate the entire system with two people. You have a driver who also helps with emplacement and displacement, and then you have an operator.
We want to be able to run it single guy from a single laptop with an Xbox controller. Something that he doesn't have to go to school to learn for years and years, but something that he knows how to use instinctively.
An Xbox controller. So we took a laser and hooked an Xbox controller up to it. How cool is that? That's a really good example of military and commercial innovation coming together to solve a problem that needed to be solved. So what does all this have to do about data, devices, and people, and the struggles we have with managing our data, the struggles we have with our devices, and then the struggles we have with the people who are going to use that data and use those devices? Well, we can take some of that innovation that's gone on. There's been a lot of innovation in commercial over the past several years that we can bring into it. But one of the most interesting innovations probably in this is the cardboard box guys. Who knew it? Cardboard box guys can teach us a lot about their innovations to help us keep our data safe. What do I mean by that? If we look at those right now, we can't tell which one of those is sensitive, which one's fragile, which one might break. But you know what they figured out a long time ago, because they're really good at getting stuff from point A to point B, is that the guy who packs it is the best one to tell us how it's important. And you can be sure that the box guys don't do content inspection, right? They're not opening up every one of your boxes to figure out what's in them. It's the user who's doing that, and that's what they're putting on there. If we take a bit closer look at this, what do we see? We see user-readable information there, some data identity being provided. But we also have machine identity, machine-readable information there as well, so we can also leverage what the machine systems can bring to us as well. And really, what is this information we're putting on there? It's really metadata, right? I'm sure we all know what metadata is, but just to briefly go through it, it's really data about data. It's how do we describe a piece of information? Some examples of metadata are author, who created it. The data was created, that could be important to know. The classification, something we're all very familiar with, the classifying the importance of that information. Retention period, how long do I hang on to this for? When's it okay to release it, when's it not? And really, that metadata becomes the source of our data identity, and we can make better decisions with it once our data has identity. So last year, those of you fortunate to be here, I handed out caramel bars. Unfortunately, this year I shot the marketing budget on pictures. But we'll talk about caramel bars anyways, because they tell us something about the importance of metadata. It has to be sticky, it has to be persistent. It has to be inside of the information we're going to use and consume and share. We want that identity to travel with that information as we share it and use it and consume it. So if we talk about labeling for data identity, what do we mean by that? First thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the information, right? We're going to take and have the user involved and identify the importance of that information, because they're the ones who create it. They understand the context, which is going to be used and consumed. But an interesting thing happens, and we heard about this earlier in the keynotes, that we have to raise user awareness. We have to make users more aware of the information they're using and consuming and providing. And by having them as part of the solution to provide data identity, you raise their awareness. Once you raise their awareness, a funny thing happens. Data loss goes down. Now I know the importance of that information. I'm not going to make inadvertent mistakes with it because I'm the one who classified it. I know why it's important. If we've raised awareness, we reduce our data losses, we provided identity, we can start sharing that information securely. Because now I know its value, and I can share that value with the other people I'm going to share it with. So they understand the importance of this information to me. But data identity can change, right? We've heard this discussions here this week in workshops and keynotes that over time, the importance of our information does change. And what did it used to look like? Used to like stamp, double stamp, triple stamp, scratch this off, try to figure it out. We've come a little way from then, but some of the things we can do today is we can take and provide really clear visual identification of that information. So even as it changes over time, we can still provide very visual meanings and representation to the user who's going to use and consume it, but also keep the metadata up to date as well. So let's talk a bit about mobile devices. So we know that we got to provide identity to our data, but what happens in the mobile world, and what's really driving these mobile trends we see? Bring your own device. We've heard that we're going to have more devices shortly in the world than we are people. Everybody has a mobile device. They want to bring it with them. They want to use their latest device. But we have this issue of how do we manage personal versus military versus business data? That's a challenge we have to address. Mobile first. We heard from HP the other day that they expect over the next several years that most applications are going to be rewritten. And we're not rewriting them just because we want to. We're rewriting them because we have to. We have this mobile first initiative. Most software developers today, when you talk to them, what platform are they developing on first? It's a mobile platform. We live in an always connected world. Here's an image of St. Peter's Square for the consecration of Pope Benedict back in 2005. Here's St. Peter's Square for Pope Francis in 2013. Just in that short amount of time, the proliferation of devices and bring your own devices happened very fast, and that's a very short period of time. We want innovative designs. We've heard that it can take 3, 5, 10 years for us in the military to adopt new technologies because we have to go through a planning process. In the commercial world, innovation happens almost overnight. The latest iPhones are coming out very shortly, and everyone's going to want to upgrade to them. So that bring your own device mentality is sometimes driven by the innovative design of those devices. So this is a picture I used last year to show what the classrooms today look like. I have sons off to university, and I've seen stuff like that. But when I went back looking this year to see what has changed, we've gone to tablets. In that short amount of time, we've gone from a very mobile device, a laptop, I think we'd all agree, to tablets. And that's in 1 year. Imagine the innovation that's going to happen in the next several years. So let me introduce you to what I call Warfighter 2.0. These people up here, they never knew a world without the internet. They don't know what a Dewey Decimal System is. They know what Google is. They don't know what a card stack is. These are the kids that get called home for dinner, not by mom and dad yelling from the door, but from getting a text. These are the kids that are being taught and trained that we have to collaborate, we have to share, we have to interact in real time. They don't do projects by themselves anymore. They're done in teams. So we have to think about that and think about the technology they're using today and that innovation we've got to bring back into our solutions today. Because if we don't, I think we'll find that when they show up at work, they may think they are in a Star Trek time warp.
Perhaps the professor could use your computer. Please.
Computer? Computer? Hello, computer.
Just use the keyboard.
The keyboard. How quaint.
And certainly how quaint will they find it when they show up at work and we show them pieces of paper and pens and stamps. Now, we moved a little bit beyond that, but the tools we use today will appear to them as pen and paper and stamps because they're not used to the tools we're using. They're used to the tools they use every day. They're used to rich interfaces like this. This is what they're expecting from us. And we have to deliver that, or we're going to find ourselves in a whole nother world of issues with security in that the people we are relying upon to use our security won't want to use it. It's not engaging. It's not meaningful to them. We have to make sure that we provide them solutions and innovations that they'll want to use. So talk a little bit about mobile innovation. My first job in the government was actually supporting those things, and they were heavy. But what you know was great about those luggables was you always knew where your data was. It was sitting in that suitcase beside you. No one was going to steal it without you knowing it. The only data leaks happened was from the spine when you tried to pick one of those things up. They weighed a ton. But if we look at the world today, we complain if that device weighs 1 ounce more. We complain if that device is 1 second slower. That device has more information on it than my entire stack of Encyclopedia Britannicas at home in my bedroom. And yes, I use Encyclopedia Britannicas to do research at one time. So that's what they're going to be expecting. They're going to be expecting the next generation technologies to be adopted and that innovation to be adopted so that they can do their jobs more effectively. So let's have a little test. Let's have a little eye test here. So I've got a mobile device up there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the way we do email today on a mobile device. I'll give you 4 seconds, and you try to tell me if you can find the information on there that's sensitive. We ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you see it? Anybody see it? No? Kind of a small screen, but still it was there. How about this? Let's try again. We'll give you another chance. This time with some innovation in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you spot it that time? Right? We have to be better at identifying our information on mobile devices. We have to make it easy for those bring your own device people to understand what information on that device is confidential, what's business, what's personal. And we're going to do that with a really nice little banner up there that tells them immediately the importance of that information. There's no guessing, there's no reading, there's no scrolling, there's no flicking of fingers. It's right there in front of them. And we're going to give them a compelling interface to take and do those classifications with, something they're familiar with, the same controls they use today. But what's really neat about these devices is some of the innovative technologies in them. One of the things we offer is something called geofencing. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. It's the ability to have policies that says, if this phone shows up in a location I don't want it, I'm going to wipe the device. If this phone automatically loses its GPS connection, I'm going to wipe this device. If they haven't used their mail for 24, 48 hours, whatever you configure it for, I'm going to wipe the device. And that's a really interesting policy. Why is that? How many times have we misplaced our phone? Set it down somewhere, walked off. Yeah, I'll go back and find it later. But when you go back to find it later, it's not there. It's actually been lost. So now you're sheepish about telling anyone that you lost your device. So now days have gone by where that device could have been attacked, information taken from it. But if we have good, rich policies there that go along with the classification of that information, we can prevent that and we can help our users be better at what they do. So when we talk about data identity, we got that. We got that mobile devices are important. It's the way of the future. But one of the interesting things that's happening is we're ending up with computing without borders. What do I mean by that? Back in the days, even before my time, when you wanted sensitive information, you went to a warehouse, to a guard, to a filing cabinet that was locked, and finally to a file to get that information. You knew where your sensitive information was. It was locked up in that warehouse, in that filing cabinet, in that file. And somebody had to physically go there and get it. So that probably gives us the highest degree of information assurance and security over information, but it didn't really share very well. So then some innovation happened. We got mainframe computers. Now we took those 14 warehouses down to 1. It was still a warehouse, but a warehouse of electronics. But I still had to physically go there. I had to go to that IBM lump terminal that was directly connected to that mainframe to get my information. So we made it a little better, a little easier to share information, but we still kept good control over that information because we controlled the machines. Then another innovation happened, the personal computer revolution. Everybody wanted PCs on their desktop. More productivity, I can be more efficient, let me have a computer on my desktop. Well, now our information was spread across all those different desktops and on a floppy disk. Yes, that's what a floppy disk looks like for those who don't know. It's one size, they came in various sizes. That's one size. But at least we knew that the information was still on that floppy disk. And if we had possession of that floppy disk and it hasn't been copied, I had pretty good assurance I knew where my data was. Okay, that was pretty good. But then we found out if we networked all these PCs together and put it in a central server, we could share information even better and quicker and more efficiently. Problem is now I had many entry points to that data, many exit points to that data, and that was a real problem. Then we connected everything to the internet and got mobile devices, right? So we could share that information, make them people more efficient. And the internet provided us really great services that allowed us to share that information very quickly. Maybe not with the right people that we wanted to. And really what ended up happening is we ended up creating a new way to exfiltrate data, sometimes inadvertent, sometimes advertent. But we need to find a way to bring that back, to leverage that innovation, but not give up our data. If we look at the traditional perimeters we talked about, everything was self-contained. But then a funny thing happened. We have all these people we got to share information with now. So what did we do? We let them onto our network. We let them to take information from us, but then they started to interconnect themselves and share information amongst themselves. And that was a concern. But then we got connected to the World Wide Web. Anybody could see our information. So now my files could be anywhere, being used by anyone. But if I can take and go back to what we talked about and bring identity to that data, I can create a new data perimeter. I can put that perimeter around the data itself. Because of its identity, we now know what that is about, and it makes our downstream systems more intelligent. What do I mean by that? So here's an example of a high-level federated mission network. This is my drawing. Please don't take it as gospel. But it starts off with a user deciding if he's going to protect or not protect something. And we're going to leverage guards and gateways to make decisions if we put something out to the entire Afghan mission network or only to ISAF. So here we go, we get an unclassified document. Yep, guard and gateway says, that's good. That can go out to the entire mission network because it's unclassified, and I know the identity of the data. Try to send out a restricted document. Not going to happen. Not going to let that out to the entire mission network. However, if you want to send a secret document directly to ISAF, I'll let that happen because I know they're allowed to get that information. So by having data identity, bringing the perimeter down to the data, we can enable the next generation of mission networks. So really, in this presentation, what have we learned about data, devices, and people? Well, we know that data has to have identity and it has to be sticky, right? It's got to be embedded in it. We know that we have to put good visual markings and labels on things so we know how to handle it. And we know we have to adapt when data identity changes. What do we know about devices? Bring your own devices here to stay. It's not going away, it's only going to get worse. As the pace of innovation increases and those new devices come out, we're going to see more and more of those on our network. But there's hope. We can provide good classification methods on there, on those devices to keep separate business and personal and military information. We can apply good, rich policies to help manage that information once it has a good identity. And with our people, we know we got a new warfighter to deal with. They're expecting different tools and innovations than what we have today. There will be some inadvertent data loss. There may be some advertent data loss. But now that we have identity with our data, we can rely upon the systems we have in place to help us protect that from happening. So really, innovations happen today. We have the innovations we need to solve some of these hard problems. And 2020 is not that far away. If you don't get started today, the amount of data you're going to have to deal with in the future is just going to grow and grow exponentially. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. These innovations are being used today on mission-critical networks throughout the world. There's no reason why they couldn't help you as well. Thank you very much.
Mr. Reid, thank you very much for presenting at this year's NIAS. I'd like to give that to you as a token of our appreciation.
Thank you.